I wanted to take an opportunity here to do some Microsoft project training videos for everyone who has not used this program before, just to give you some real quick basics about how to get started, how to start a project, and a few quick pointers that are really going to help you and that I want to be able to see in your assignments. So when you first open up project, you're going to be able to start a blank project. And so that's where I'm going to go ahead and start here. And the first thing you want to do is get your project set up the way that you want your project to look. So we're going to start by going into our options, and that's through File, and then you're going to go to Schedule, and in Schedule, this is really important because your project won't work correctly if you don't do this. You're going to change all of your new tasks that are created to auto-scheduled. If you have a bunch of thumbtacks over here in your task mode, that means they're manually scheduled. You don't want thumbtacks over here. Okay, so start off by just putting new task created auto scheduled. You can change them after the fact if you want to, but you shouldn't have to if you get this set up for auto scheduled. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now the next thing I want to do is go to my project information and change my start date. And so if I go to project and project information, this gives me a chance to figure out when my project is going to start. So if my project's going to start in February, let's say it's going to start February 8th of this year, we're just going to go ahead and get that set up. One thing you never want to do is put a date into your start and finish times. You never want to manually input a date. You want the dates to work themselves out based on the connections that you put in there, your predecessor and successor connections. So the next thing we want to do is we want to look across the top here and see which columns we want. For one thing, we have predecessors, but we don't have successors. One thing I want to do is I want to add a successor column. So I click on that and I start typing in successors, and there we have the successor column. I'm going to drag that over, put it right next to my predecessors, and move this so I can get back to the new columns. The other column that I really like and I would encourage you to put in is the work breakdown structure column. We're going to talk about work breakdown structure in this class, but this is really going to help you to be able to show this in your schedules. So type in WBS, work breakdown structure. Click on that. That's your work breakdown structure. I'm going to drag that right over in front of my task name because that'll make it easy to see as I start inputting things here. You can adjust all of the sizes of these different columns, and at this point I would leave in work breakdown structure, task name, duration, our start and finish dates, our predecessors and successors, and you may want to do resources at some point. So that's a pretty good place to start as far as columns go. Now, as we start putting in tasks for our schedule, I will show you how to do that here real quick. I'm going to type in quite a few and get them organized. So I'm going to go ahead and just start typing these in an order for a project that, let's say I'm going to do an addition on my house. Obviously I'm from the construction background, so this is a little bit easier for me to do, but this can be any type of project for any type of industry. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my project planning. Okay, so what I've done here is I have created a really basic schedule. You obviously can see that there's plenty of things missing from this schedule. But over here on my work breakdown structure, you're going to see that they're all on the same level. Right now what I want to do is I want to go back to my task bar, and I want to start organizing this a little bit, because these three things are part of project planning. I'm going to indent those underneath project planning with this button right up here at the top. And then all these other things are construction. So I'm going to indent all of those underneath construction. And so now you can see that over here under work breakdown structure, we've got some more level 2s. So these are level 1s, and these are level 2s. The other thing I can do is I can right click to insert a task. So I right click on that insert task, and I'm going to call this Bruner addition. And then I'm going to take all of this, indent it one more time, and then Bruner addition is a level 1, project planning is a level 2, and everything underneath that is a level 3. And if I added something, let's say underneath foundations, that's going to, and indented, that's going to be a level 4. So I'm going to go ahead and add in excavation and concrete. And I'm going to indent those, highlight them, hit the arrow button, and now those are a level 4 underneath foundations. Okay, I'm just going to leave it here for now because that makes this simple. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to now put in our durations. So we're going to put in, I'm going to give this 20 days. Remember, this is set up automatically to be working days. You want to put in durations even if it is 1 day, because you'll end up with these question marks that you don't want to see. So city approval process, we're going to give that 20 days. We're going to give that a month. Basically, remember there's about 20 working days in each month. Permit, let's say we're just going to get the permit on 1 day. Okay, so that's all good. Excavation, 5 days. I've got rock on my thing, so it's probably going to take 10 days. That's going to get expensive. We can pour it in 1 day. Slab on grade, let's give a couple days. Framing, we're going to give 10. Oh, that's right. I had interiors here, and I was going to indent my interiors. And so we're going to give roughen 5 days, and drywall 5 days. Everything's taken 5 days, obviously. Painting, I think I can do painting in 3 days. And flooring, give myself some extra time on that. Okay, project completion, we're going to just call that a milestone of project completion. So instead of giving it a day, I'm going to call it 0 days. It turns it into a milestone over here on the right. We can still connect things to it, but that's the milestone of our project completion. It turns into this little black diamond over here. Notice everything is starting on my start date of that Monday automatically because I put it in under project information, February 8th. Okay, now we've got our durations in. I need to start thinking about the connections between things. The easiest way to start doing connections is to highlight what you want connected, and usually that's within an area of, say, project planning or foundations or construction or whatever it might be. I'm going to go back over here to task, and you notice these buttons right up here. We've got a link button, and so that's going to link them in a finish to start relationship. Oh, and it's also going to ask me to save it every once in a while. Okay. Let's see. Down here, I want to link those. Here, I want to link these. You don't want to link all of your whole schedule at one time because it'll link your summaries right here, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But you don't want that linked. Okay, so now we have a basic linking of all of our tasks, predecessors and successors. Let me tell you this right now. You need to have a predecessor and successor for every activity except your first activity and your last activity, no matter what, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put a successor of this of project completion, okay? Roofing, I'm not going to start my, let's say I'm not going to start my drywall until my roofing is complete. So we're going to make that 17, but we still need a successor for rough-in, or a predecessor for rough-in. And so I'm going to say that we need to have framing done before we start our rough-in. So that's 12. I'm sorry, that's 11. So we're going to throw that in there. My slab on grade, I want to have my foundations done before that, so we're going to go ahead and link those two together. So you could do this and hit the link button. You can also unlink it, or you can just put in 9, just like that. Now excavation, we need to have our permit before excavation, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in 5 for that. And now everything has a predecessor and successor except for our first activity and our last activity. That's good. Okay, we're all set on that. Now, over here, you can see that I've got my bar chart, my Gantt chart, but I can't see all of it because now it's stretched out too much. The easiest way to deal with this is go up to this calendar bar, right click on it, go to zoom, entire project, okay. Okay, now it has zoomed to the entire project. This is where you will go before you print also, because you'll want whatever you want to print, you want it to be in this field of view. So if I don't want resource names to print, I'm going to move it that way. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this again to the entire project, just like that, and voila. Okay, there's a couple more things I want to show you. Under format, if I want to show my critical path on this in red activities, I'm going to hit critical tasks. Now, most of this schedule is going to be critical because it's linear. I have everything connected with a finish to start relationship. But let's say there was some overlap, like right here, there's overlap. So rough-in is not on our critical path because this takes longer than it. So rough-in can happen back here, and then there's some float in between rough-in and our drywall, which is good because as my duration, so let's say that my duration for my rough-in goes longer. So now it's 6 days. Now it's 8 days. See how it's the bar's getting longer, but it still hasn't become critical. Once it takes 15 days, it now becomes critical. Let's say it takes 20 days. Now this is not critical up here because there's float in between my roofing and my drywall. The rough-in has become critical. Okay, so the critical path is important for this class, and you're going to want to click on critical tasks to show that. Couple other things you can do. Let me show you some shortcuts. If you want a different relationship between things, so let's say you want things to overlap. Now some of this is not going to make sense as far as what I'm overlapping, but I just want to show you how to do it. So let's say that we wanted to overlap our framing and our siding. Obviously we wouldn't actually do that, but let me just show you how to do that with tasks. So one thing we can do is we can give them the same predecessors. So this has a predecessor of 10, this has a predecessor of 10. So now they're overlapping because they have the same predecessor. Obviously we would need to connect this to something. If you can't figure out what to connect something to, then just connect it to the end of your project. ultimately everything needs to be connected to the end of your project. So now it's connected to the end. If I didn't connect it to the end, I could make this task last 200 days and it doesn't affect my project completion. Obviously, that's not okay. So we need it to be connected with something. That's why we have the rule that everything needs a predecessor and a successor. Okay, so you can overlap them that way. The other thing you can do is you can give start-to-start relationships. So between framing and siting, I could give a start-to-start relationship. So let's go back to linking this one to number 11. But let's link them together in a different way. So an easy way to do this is if you go to View, here's another little trick for you. Go to View, and then you go to Details. It brings up this pane down on the bottom where if you're clicked on siting, you can see what siting information is. Now, it has resource name and predecessor name right now. I want predecessors and successors. So now I can see that we have a finish to start relationship with framing and a finish to start relationship for a successor with roofing. I'm going to change this to a start to start relationship. Now watch what happens up here when I do this. Now they're both starting at the same time. Now let me talk to you about lags. Let's say I didn't want these two things to start at the same time. I wanted them to have a relationship of starting at the same time, but I wanted siting to start 2 days after framing. So I go to this lag and I go to a positive 2-day lag. Now watch again what happens here when I click OK. Now this activity, siting, will start 2 days after the start of framing. This could be really valuable for your schedule, knowing that you can do finish to start, start to start relationships. The other thing that you can do, and some schedulers tell you not to do it, let's go to this relationship over here. You see I'm pointing at that red arrow. I double clicked on it. It tells me it's a finish to start relationship. Okay, we're going to leave it as that. But I want there to be some overlap on it. So I'm going to do a negative lag of 2 days. Now this one will start 2 days before this one ends. You can click on the task itself and you can see the relationships. So now if you look at the details down here, you can see that there's a negative 2 days. So there's multiple ways that you can adjust these relationships by clicking on the arrows, by going down here to the details. If you don't want a details screen, you don't have to have it, but that's in View. Now when you go to Print, let me remind you that you need to have what you want showing when you go to Print. So I'm going to go Zoom, Entire Project, OK, and then I'm going to go to my Print. Now the best thing to do is to print this as an 11 by 17. So we're going to go to Landscape Orientation. I need to change my printer. We're going to print this. I'm going to use Bluebeam to PDF it, which will allow me to change it to 11 by 17. The whole thing is showing on 11 by 17, but there's multiple ways that you can get it to show if for some reason it's not, because you want all of this, all of the Gantt chart. Let me get back here. Oh, great. Okay, there's a lesson to learn. I had not saved my work and project crashed and I lost all my work. So I had to go back and reproduce it. It's going to look a little bit different, but I just wanted to throw it together real quick to show you the end of what I was trying to explain to you in the tutorial. So a couple of things before we go to print. You can, the reason that there's no predecessor and successor in these areas, I want to let you know about this, is that these are summaries and they don't get predecessors and successors. Now you could put some in there, but it's going to mess up your schedule. So when I see your schedules, I want to make sure that every time you have a summary, which is usually bolded, you do not have a predecessor and successor. Everything else except your first activity and your last activity has predecessors and successors. Now, when we're going to print, remember, you want to zoom this. You want this to be showing what you want to print. You're going to go to your print screen. I'm going to print a PDF, so I'm going to use Bluebeam PDF. And then I'm going to change this to 11 by 17 because that's going to be the easiest way to see it. And you're going to be able to see the whole schedule. You want to make sure that you can see all of the bar chart and all of this on the same page. If I had it in 8.5 by 11, it looks like this. The first page looks like this and the second page looks like this. This page makes absolutely no sense because there's nothing associated with it. It's just a bar chart. So I do not want to see that, because a lot of times you'll have 5 pages of schedule and then 5 pages of bar chart, and that does not work. You really need to make sure everything's on the same page, and you can adjust your print settings until that's the case. You can go in here to page setup and you can say fit to 1 pages wide by however many pages tall. You can do that so that it all fits on 1 page wide. The other thing that you can do in here is these charts down here at the bottom. So we got a legend down here at the bottom and we've got a title block down here at the bottom. So if you go to your legend, and this is in the print settings. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense as far as how to change all this, but it's in the print settings. You go to legend, you go to left, you can change all of this. You can type in whatever you want. I could type in my name. I can put something on the right if I wanted, center, whatever I wanted to do there. You can do headers and footers and different things in here. So I press OK, now my name's down there. All right, so because I changed the print settings to 1 page wide by 1 page tall, it expanded everything into 1 page, which looks pretty good for this one. You may need to adjust it based on the size of your schedule. You could also hide this task mode if you wanted to, and this right here if you wanted to. It's up to you. I like seeing it because I make sure that I don't have anything that's manually scheduled. There would be a thumbtack here if it was manually scheduled. I can show you that real quick. So if I switch this to manually schedule, you see a thumbtack. But we don't want that because then things won't work right. So if I print that, it's going to print to a PDF exactly like I want it. Alright, so that's the quick tutorial I have for you on Microsoft Project. Hopefully this helps you as you're going through the class. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me about Microsoft Project. Project Libre is very similar. You're going to find a lot of similar things in Project Libre. So if you watch this tutorial, you should be able to find those same things in Project Libre. Alright, thanks a lot.